So that's it. I think that's everything. I did have to go find a couple I realized I didn't have in my stack, but I think that's everything that we've got here. Oh no, I didn't do I lied. One second. Oh no, hold on. Hello everybody, my name is Kelsey and we're about to get very, very nerdy with our entire holiday book collection. I thought it might be kind of fun just to continue this week of Christmas vibes by going through all the books that are in our holiday/Christmas book collection. So I bring them out every single year. They hide downstairs and we put them in this beautiful little like book tree. I'll show you, I'll insert a little video here so you can kind of see what it looks like. I love doing this. It's actually my dad's idea. He did that with all of our holiday books growing up for the past couple of years before I think I officially left the house. So not an original idea that I have come up with. I'm sure you have seen all the amazing videos of people creating trees out of books, but I stole this one straight from my dad. So I thought we would just go through all the books that are in our collection. It's relatively small because, again, we bring them out only one time a year, and I think at this point, minus the few that I've gotten in the last couple of years, there's only a couple of books that I haven't actually read. So different from my other book collection, which is ridiculously large, I buy Christmas books every year and then I usually read them that year. So I am much better at reading those books than my other physical TBR, but that's a different rant for a different video. These are ones that we've collected over the last few years since my husband and I got married, and I've inherited, well, actually no, most of the ones that I grew up with are still with my parents. Now that collection is a very large collection that I would love to go through again one day, but most of these are just ones that we've picked up in the last few years. A lot of them are going to be romances because Chris is not necessarily someone who needs a themed book for Christmas. He doesn't need that, whereas I need to have Christmas books to read throughout the month of December. So these are mostly all of me, but there's no order. I literally just took them and plopped them on the floor. So I'm just gonna grab and go, and if I can find them online, I'll leave the link to every single one of them down below because I'm sure I'm going to butcher what they're about. But let's dive in. So the first one on this stack is The Holiday Present by Joanna Lindsay. This is a bind-up, actually, of The Present and Home for the Holidays. The Present is part of the Mallory series, which is the reason I picked it up. It's the 6th book. I think they're both novellas because the first half is one and the second half is the other book. So I picked it up because of The Present. Again, like I said, it was part of the Mallory series. It's the 6th book in the Mallory series, and I was really enjoying that series last year, so I picked this one up. I thought I was going to get to the second one, which is apparently, it says right here, 2 rival hearts are united by a Christmas miracle that would do Charles Dickens proud. So I actually haven't read the second half of this. It would be kind of fun to get to it if I could find the time this year, but yeah, I don't even know what the second one's about, but I picked it up purely for the first one, but I love a good holiday romance. And the fun part about this is there's actually an ornament in the middle of the book that you can take out and turn into a stand-up Santa, but I have not. Clearly I have not done that, but this is a newer one I picked up last year. This next one is actually, now that I'm looking at this, probably the one that I've owned the longest because it did actually come from my parents' collection. I lied. Apparently there is one book that I've got from their collection because apparently it was always mine. And you know what? I'm not sure I've actually read the full thing, but that is The Autobiography of Santa Claus, and this is by Jeff Gwynne, or sorry, As Told to Jeff Gwynne. This is I don't know what the biography, I guess. I'm trying to think of mockumentary being a fake documentary. This is supposed to be a fake not autobiography, but biography about Santa Claus, and it was told to Jeff Gwynne, who wrote it down. So I don't really know a whole lot about this one. I did start it, I feel a long time ago, but I think it's has more complex topics than Teenage Kelsey was really prepared for, so I kind of got bored. I feel like I could read it now, so this one might come out. I'm starting to run out of things to read this year, actually, believe it or not. So this one might come out soon because I know I started it, but I never finished it. But this is an autobiography about Santa Claus. It just sounds kind of fun. I grew up with a few of those. My dad collected a few that were kind of autobiographies or different retellings of the story of Santa Claus from different cultures and pretending it was Santa writing his own story, and I just thought that was really cool. So we've had this one for quite a while. One of the first ones I would say I got in like high school or college sometime is The Afterlife of Polly Chase. This is by Cynthia Hand. This is right here, Every Scrooge Deserves a Second Chance. So this is a Christmas Carol Scrooge retelling. It's relatively popular, so I'm sure a lot of people have heard of it, but it follows Polly Chase, who it says 5 years ago, I think. Yeah, 5 years ago, when she was 17, she was visited by 3 ghosts and told to change her life, and she didn't. And then she died, and now she's stuck in this loop as part of this secret Scrooge project as the ghost of Christmas Past. And so every year they try to save a Scrooge, and every year she's the ghost of Christmas Past trying to help these people out, and she's stuck at 17. And this year, they're Scrooge, or I don't know what they call it, but like the person they're trying to help is actually like really attractive, and like she finds him very attractive, and they talk a lot. There's feelings there. I feel like she visits him a few times before she actually shows up as Christmas Past. So there's a lot here. It's definitely YA. I wouldn't say romance, but partially romance. I remember really enjoying it. But yes, this is a modernized Scrooge Christmas Carol retelling. Actually, if you've seen, there's this movie that came out this year on, I think it's on Apple TV, and it's called, oh no, I forgot what it's called. It's got Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds in it, and I can't remember what it's called. Oh no, I can't remember. It's gonna drive me crazy. If I can find a poster of it, I'll put a movie poster here. But this gives me the same vibes as that, so I feel like that was a good one. You should definitely check it out. Anyway, I got sidetracked. The next book is, again, one of my earlier books, and that is Pride and Prejudice and Mistletoe, and this is by Melissa Dale Cruz. This actually has been turned into a Hallmark movie, but I have yet to figure out how to watch it, so I really want to see it. But it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a Pride and Prejudice retelling told around Christmas, but it is swapped, so Darcy is female, and the Elizabeth character, who I think is named Luke, yeah, Luke Bennett is male, obviously, and it's the two of them at Christmas, and it's like the story of Pride and Prejudice shortened and made Christmassy. So obviously I had to pick up a Pride and Prejudice retelling. I mean, hello, does that not sound like a very me thing to do? The next one I actually read last year, and that is Carols and Chaos. This is by Cindy Anstey. This is a Victorian murder mystery kind of book, but with a love twist. I lied, sorry, it's not a murder mystery. It is a mystery though. We follow our 2 main characters, Matt and Kate. And Kate is a lady's maid, and Matt is playing ballet. He, I think, is from the village and is like brought into this big house to help out because they are struggling with, like, there's a lot of people visiting for the holidays. And so the 2 of them start to create a bond, and she's like, no, I can't fall in love. There's too much going on here. And then on top of that, there's a counterfeiting scheme that is discovered, and they are kind of helping figure out what's going on. And it has all of those fun Victorian mystery vibes if that's what you're going for. But yeah, I still have that one. I don't think I have anything else. I did for a while have other stuff by Cindy Anstey, but I think I've unhauled them. But I did like that one. This one actually is my husband's book, now that I've said that, and that is Skipping Christmas by John Grisham. This is John Grisham's Christmas book. This is the book that turned into that movie, Christmas with the Cranks. It follows the Cranks. I think in here they are actually called the Cranks. Yeah, it's Luther and Nora Crank. And their daughter's not visiting for Christmas, so they've decided, you know what? Then we're not doing Christmas. Christmas is stressful. Do you know how much stuff we're going to have to do with the parties we have to have? Like all of this extra stress on top of everything. Let's just save all of our money and go on a cruise. And she's like, sounds great. So they do. And then at the last minute, they find out their daughter is actually coming home with her boyfriend. And they end up having like 2 days to get everything together. So it's definitely like a rom-com vibes. I will say, I personally like the movie better than the book. I feel like the book was fine, but it was just kind of okay. And I think Chris agrees with me. I think the movie is just funnier to watch. But it does have that very classic comedy Christmas vibe to it. This one is one that I haven't read yet, and that is The Christmas Dress. I almost just tossed it. By Courtney Cole. It says One Dress, Two Women, and the Magic of the Holiday Season. I actually got this in a special Christmas box that I did last year. It was actually 2 books in there. Well, I'll talk about the other one because they came together. The other one was The Christmas Escape. So these 2 books came in that box. I hadn't heard anything about either of them. And The Christmas dress is kind of like a book. It's one of those books that crosses a couple of different timelines. So this book follows two women. We follow Meg and Elle, and Meg has recently come, I believe it takes place in Chicago, yes. She's come to Chicago, which is her hometown, to kind of manage her late father's tenants. He was in charge of an apartment building, and so she's now become the owner and the landlord and all that kind of fun stuff. And so she's dealing with all of that, and she really wanted to be a fashionista, and she's like, all right, well, that career is now out the window. And she runs into one of the tenants, Elle, and Elle is packing up everything. She's also not feeling the Christmas joy. She's packing everything up because she's about to move into a nursing home. And while she's packing up, she finds this dress that it says on the back represents the best and the worst night of her life. And she's having trouble either throwing it away or keeping it. She can't decide what she wants to do. And so Meg and Elle create this very unlikely friendship, and I think the dress comes to play later. Elle gives it to Meg to wear to the building's Christmas party. I think there's obviously way more to it than just that, but that's the general vibe of it, is there's this dress that helped one woman out and is now going to help another one out. I'm not entirely sure. It does, it feels like it should be a romance, but there's nothing on the back here that says it's a romance. So I'm thinking this is more of literature fiction, women's fiction kind of stuff, but we got that one. And then The Christmas Escape is actually, as of recording this, I'm reading it right now. This is by Sarah Morgan. This follows two women. We have Christy and Alex, and Christy and her husband and their daughter, and Alex, the best friend, are all going to the Laplands, which are northern, it's like Sweden, I think it is. It's up in the north. It's this picturesque kind of ski resort of sorts, and they are all going to have Christmas there. And so last minute stuff comes up, and Christy and her husband are having some issues, and so Christy decides to stay behind and asks Alex to take her kid up to Laplands, and they will join them a little bit later. And so when they get there, Alex runs into this guy, Zach, who is the best friend of the husband, and she and this guy have had some issues in the past, and I think it's a relationship between them. It does go back and forth between Chrissy and Alex's perspectives. Having read a little bit, I can see that now. So you kind of have two stories there, almost two love stories, I feel like, there, with Alex and Zach at the estate, or at the ski resort, and then Christy and her husband trying to figure out some stuff that's going on there. So all of the fun, snowy vibes there. The next couple are also books that I have picked up relatively recently. I'm not sure I've actually showed this one anywhere, and that is Kiss Her Once for Me, and this is by Alison Cochran. This one is my Book of the Month book that I got for December. I haven't gotten a Book of the Month book in a while. I'm really stingy with my Book of the Month because I already have so many books that there has to be a book that sounds so good for me to get it, and this one was one of those. This follows Ellie, and Ellie, a long time ago, I can't remember what it says, just a year ago, she recently moved to Portland, and she has a dream job as an animator, and on Christmas Eve in a bookstore has this meet cute with a woman and basically falls in love with her. But it was just that one night, and she's never met her again. So flash forward to a year later, she's working at a coffee shop, and one of her friends, Andrew, basically one night, very drunkenly, offers a marriage of convenience because she's struggling for money. I think her career didn't work out, and so she's struggling for money, and he really wants to inherit some land. I think it's some land or some sort of inheritance, but it comes on he has to be married to get it. And so he's like, let's do a marriage of convenience where I can help you out financially and you can help me get this inheritance. And she's like, all right, fine. And so in order to do that, he invites her to Christmas with his family to kind of convince them that this is a real relationship. And at this household, she runs into, you guessed it, the woman she met a year ago, who is his sister. So they have a week of Christmas stuff, and you've got Elle kind of freaking out because she's supposed to be about to marry this guy while she's kind of reconnecting with someone that she fell in love with. So it just sounds like a fun meet cute. I'm very excited about it. So that's probably the most recent addition to our book collection. And then I have this giant book, which is The Legend of Holly Claus by Brittany Ryan. We picked this up from our used bookstore a couple of months ago. This is a middle grade book that follows Holly Claus, who is the daughter of Santa and Mrs. Claus. And I don't fully understand the synopsis. It does kind of confuse me a little bit, but the idea behind it is that there's some sort of issue, and Holly is now, I think, a teenager, and she's going on an adventure and a journey basically to like find her parents, or there's this curse that's going on, and so she's trying to stop the curse, or both. I'm not entirely sure, but it does have all those fantastical fantasy vibes. It's real thick, but it is pretty big writing or text, so I bet you I can get through this really quickly. This book definitely has been loved by the person before it, and the person before it had a dog for sure. But this is one of our newer ones, and hopefully we'll get to it. I don't know, it's giving me all like the classic fairy tale vibes. Alright, the next one is one that I recently read, which you guys, I guess you guys will not have seen the next video. The next video I will talk about this book, and that's The Matzo Ball, and this is by Jean Meltzer. This is a Hanukkah romance. It follows Rachel and Jacob, and Rachel is a nice Jewish girl. She, her father is like the rabbi of the rabbis, but unbeknownst to many people, she's actually a Christmas novelist. That's her job, and she writes under a pen name. At the beginning of the book, her publisher basically says, okay, well, your last book didn't do so hot, so we don't really want any more Christmas romances from you, but you're Jewish, so we think that you should be able to write a Hanukkah romance perfectly. And she's like, but there's no, like, bubbly joy feelings when it comes to Hanukkah. That's no. So she ends up reconnecting with her her summer camp rival Jacob, arch nemesis Jacob, who was throwing this matzo ball, and she really wants a ticket because she's hoping that this ball will be able to give her the encouragement and like the material she needs to write a fun, cozy romance about Hanukkah. And so it's their relationship as it comes back to the center. So that one was so fun. Oh, highly recommend. We then have one that we got my mom, and then she gave it to me, and I haven't decided if I'm going to read it yet or not, but it's still part of the Christmas collection. And then that is Fiddency, I think, by Gregory Maguire. It says A Tale of the Once and Future Nutcracker. So Gregory Maguire does a lot of those like twisted retellings of sorts. He's the one who wrote the book Wicked that the Broadway musical is based on, and this is just his version of the Nutcracker story. My mom, I don't know if I feel like I've said this before, but my mom both my parents were ballet dancers growing up, and so my mom still works at a ballet company, and so of course Nutcracker is a big thing every single year. So I thought this might be kind of a fun twist for her to read a Nutcracker book, and then it, as most books with her, once she reads them, makes their way back to me. So I don't really know what this one's much really about, except for, again, Nutcracker, but he does really interesting twists on stories that we know pretty well. So I don't know, I've read some of his stuff, I liked some of his stuff, I didn't like some of his other stuff, so like this one I'm literally just holding on to, and I don't know how I feel about it yet. So if you've read this, let me know. Alright, the next one is one that my dad got us a couple of years ago, I want to say, and it's this beautiful edition of The 12 Days of Christmas. It's by Jan Brett, and it's got like, it's like the cardboard pages. Like, it's a straight up picture book, but look how beautiful the illustrations are in here. I'm obsessed with this. It's so, so pretty. But it's, yeah, it's stunning. But yeah, it's more of a children's book than anything else, which I love. I love a good children's book. This one is it's illustrated by Jan Brett. So, oh, I just love flipping through it. It's so pretty. So, yeah, we got that one. We then have another new edition this year, which you will have seen in my most recent haul, and that is Oscar and the 8 Blessings. This is by Richard and Tanya Simon and illustrated by Mark Siegel. This follows a kid named Oscar who has come to New York on a boat to escape the Holocaust, and he has come over with literally a name of an aunt, a relative that he's never met before, and an address. And so the book follows him through New York as he's trying to find his aunt's address, and in doing so he runs across a bunch of people that give him like blessings and hope in the world, and there's a lot of like really sweet moments between it, and the illustrations in here are beautiful. Chris bought it and we immediately sat down and read the whole thing, and the best part about this is like this kid does not speak English, so he's having all of these moments with people who don't speak the same language as him. And it's just, they're just stunning. It gives me the same vibes picture-wise as like the Polar Express. So we sat down and read it immediately and we both started crying. So it's definitely one of those like really good, like heartfelt kind of books. Speaking of the Polar Express, we have the Polar Express. This is a beautiful, I think like 10th anniversary edition that my dad got me when I was in, I think I'd gotten out of college at this point, but it's like signed. I don't know if you can see this, but it's signed and personalized. He like ran across this dude in some bookstore. And I love the Polar Express. It's so, so sweet. And like I said, the illustrations are just absolutely beautiful. And the movie that they have just matches it almost perfectly, I swear. But I'm sure many people, I don't even know how to explain this story to you because it's the Polar Express. We follow this kid who wakes up one night and he's not sure if he believes in Santa anymore and Christmas, and so this giant train shows up and he's escorted to the North Pole to meet Santa. So I love the illustrations in here, and I think, sorry, oh, it's celebrating 25 years, it's 25th anniversary. I feel like this author also illustrated everything. Yeah, written and illustrated by Chris Van Allsburg. So, yeah, I love the Polar Express. These, I just realized, were from a video I did recently, so they're all going to look really familiar. Christmas in Paris by Anita Hughes. This is one of the very first, minus like, I think the Pride and Prejudice one, romances that I really ever read that was specifically for Christmas. So this one follows our main character, Isabel, who called off her wedding like the week of, or like the day of or something. Like she called it off very last minute, and so they bought tickets and their honeymoon was going to be in Paris around Christmas, and her fiance basically says like, okay, go ahead, take the, I think it's 2 weeks, take the 2 weeks vacation in Paris to kind of like clear your head and figure out what you want. And she's like, okay, fine. And so while she gets there, she ends up accidentally getting locked out on her balcony, and she kind of gets her neighbor to help her out, and her neighbor's name is Alex. So you have them kind of sparking up a friendship of sorts, and they basically spend a bunch of time together. It also has some magical moments as well, because there's a fortune teller that plays a pretty big role within the plot. I really enjoyed this. It's probably, I would love to reread this because I remember really like diving in head first. And now that I've read quite a few romances, I'm wondering if it would still stand up the test of time, you know, but that one's real fun. And then one, actually a couple that I read last year from my cozy blog is In a Hollandaise and The Royal Holiday. So In the Hollandaise is a Christina Lauren book. I think it's the only Christina Lauren book that's specifically a Christmas book. We follow our main character, Malin, who every single year she and her parents meet up with one of their family friends and their kids, and they all rent this cabin and hang out at this cabin for Christmas. And this year is the year that they've decided is going to be the very last year at this cabin. They're going to sell it. And so some stuff happens, and the book starts with them actually leaving the cabin, having already had Christmas, and on the way to the airport, they get in a car accident, and she gets burst back into the past, onto the plane, going to the cabin for the very first time. And so it's kind of like a loop Groundhog Day kind of situation, where like she kind of keeps reliving the same day / week over and over again until she gets it right, according to her, whatever that is. So super fun, fluffy romance. And then The Royal Holiday by Jasmine Guillory is a very fun, older romance, I would say. I feel like our characters are in their 50s, but we follow Vivian, whose daughter is like a stylist, and she has been hired by the royal family. And Vivian doesn't really ever take breaks, and her daughter is like, please come spend the holiday with me in England. You need a break anyway, and then we can spend the time together. And she's like, okay, great. She goes over to England with her daughter, and her daughter stays pretty busy actually styling the royal family member. So Vivian just kind of like is walking around, and she runs into this guy named Malcolm, who gives personal tours of the castle. And so they strike up a friendship, and I think it turns into way more. I think I've read this, and it is just the two of them kind of getting to know each other, and a cute little romance that blossoms. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was quite fun. It takes place from like Christmas to New Year's, that kind of time period. So if you want one that still feels like Christmas but kind of goes past Christmas a little bit, this is definitely one for you. And I really liked that one. Okay, we're coming close to the end, I swear. The next one is A McGregor Christmas by Nora Roberts. This is a bind-up of 2 books. We have Rebellion and In From the Cold. They both follow people within this McGregor family. It's good for people who like that historical fiction vibe around Christmas. So the first part, Rebellion, is a full-length novel, and then you have a novella on top of that. So Rebellion takes place in 1745 with Serena McGregor and this guy named Brigham Langston. Serena has grown up in Scotland and is very wary of English, kind of hates all English people, and her brother comes home one Christmas with his English best friend, and she is very wary of him. She doesn't trust him. She's like, this whole thing's not working for me. And then he, of course, finds her fascinating from the get-go. So it's the two of their romance, like, together. And then we follow the short novella. Takes place in America in 1776, and we have a guy named Ian McGregor, who I can't remember how he's related. I feel like he's like the son or grandson of the couple from the first book, but he basically is injured and is forced to take refuge, and he runs across this woman named Elena Flynn, who is a widow, and she kind of helps him out, and there's a romance that blossoms between the two of them. But I read this a couple of years ago, and I really enjoyed that one. We then have The Best Christmas Pageant Ever, and this is by Barbara Robinson. This one's just really fun. It gives me the same vibes of like Roald Dahl books. I'm just going to read a little bit of the back because I think it does it justice. It says, the Hendersons are the worst kids in the history of the world. They lie, steal, smoke cigars, swear, and hit little kids. So no one is prepared when this Atlaw family invades church one Sunday and decides to take over the annual Christmas pageant. None of the Hendersons have ever heard of the Christmas story before. Their interpretation of the tale, the wise men are a bunch of dirty spies and Harold needs a good beating, has a lot of people up in arms. But it will make this year's pageant the most unusual anyone has seen and just possibly the best one ever. It's a lot of fun. It's really goofy, and it's so short. You can get through it in one sitting. It is chaptered, but like they're super short. This little book alone, like you see how small this book is, has 7 chapters in it. So take that with a grain of salt. But it's so fun. I don't know if you can tell by the cover of how ridiculous this child is, but like that's fun. That definitely deserves a reread. Next one is A Wallflower Christmas by Lisa Kleypas. This one I read a little bit earlier this year, but it's part of the Wallflower series, which is a quartet of 4 books that follows these 4 women who are consider themselves wallflowers, and in the first book they become friends and basically decide, you know what, instead of fighting each other for the bachelors that are in town right now, let's just help each other out finding the right one. And so each book is a respective romance, and this is a novella that takes place after all 4 of those, and it follows okay, hold on. In these 4 women, 2 of them are sisters, and so this book follows the brother of 2 of these girls, and he has come to England. They are American, and he has come to England because they both found husbands in England, and he basically gets convinced by his father to try to get engaged, and that if he gets engaged to a very specific person, his father will give him a chunk of the family business. Even though this guy has like loads of money and doesn't really need it, he really wants like ties to the company. So in doing so, he meets with the companion, aka the cousin of this lady, and they strike up a romance of sorts. So it's a novella. It's super cute. You have to have read all 4 of one because it does spoil all of the romances, but also you get little like snippets into each of these 4 women's married lives, and it's really cute, and it's just kind of like a really small moment that you're like, oh, I'm really glad I saw that, but it wouldn't really mean anything to you unless you have read this one. But this one is also one that I picked up, I think, last year sometime. And then the very last book, I didn't mean to leave this one for last, but it just feels appropriate, and that is The Night Before Christmas. This one is illustrated by Christian Birmingham and is by Clement C. Moore. This is not the book I grew up with, but this is an exact copy of it. So I bought myself a copy of the book that I grew up with. I love this one. It's huge, first off, but the illustrations in here are absolutely stunning. I am literally obsessed with it. I love it, love it, love it. I can never get enough of the cute illustrations, and this one comes with me, which is definitely a lot of process, especially because we spend a lot of Christmases with Chris's family. So this one travels with me. This big old book travels with me because I need to read it the night, Christmas Eve, right before Christmas. So I just adore this one. It's definitely a nostalgia read for me. I read it every year. It just gives me all of the good fuzzy vibes, but yeah, yeah. Oh, so good. So that's it. That's a look at our right now Christmas collection. I had to do some running around because I definitely forgot a few in different places, but I think this is it. I think we've officially come to the end. So I hope you enjoyed. As I said, I'll try to leave as many as I can linked down below. We'll see. There's quite a few here, and some of them I think is hard to find like the exact editions I have. So we'll see, but I'll leave as many as I can down below. But please let me know if you've read any of the books that I mentioned, or if there's like, do you collect Christmas books? Are you a holiday reader like I am? And if you have a good recommendation, I'm always looking to expand our already ridiculous list. So let me know. But if you like this video, and I very much hope that you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you'd like to be part of this awesome growing family. I've also got all my social media as well as other fun bookish links down below, so don't forget to check all of that out, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!